Today we're going to be in lesson 8-2, operations of complex numbers. This is on page 126. So our learning objectives and learning targets for today are to add and subtract complex numbers and also to multiply complex numbers. We will not be dividing. That is not part of our standard. So let's just look at adding and subtracting. You may notice when you add and subtract complex numbers, it's very similar to just adding and subtracting with a variable. So like right here, when we are adding these binomials together, adding these two terms, notice how we would combine the 5 and the -2, the real numbers, and we would combine the 4x and then the 3x, these two terms with variables. So the 4 plus the 3x. So our answer would be 3 plus 7x. Same concept applies when we have an I. We treat I just like we would treat x. So like right here, we have 5 minus 2. Those are both numbers with no I or no variable. So those would get combined to get 3. Then right here, we have 4i plus 3i. So that's how we get the 7i. So let's look at an example. So down here in part A, so we have 6 plus 5i, and then plus 4 minus 7i. Remember, parentheses are important. If we were to distribute this positive to everything that comes after, it doesn't change the sign. So really, we could just rewrite this entire problem, but without parentheses. Now let's combine like terms. So notice how the 6, positive 6, and positive 4 both are real numbers. They don't have an I. We can combine those to get 10. Then we have a 5i, positive 5i, minus 7i. So when we combine those, we will get a -2i. We treat I just like the variable. We're done. This is our final answer. So now seeing that example, and since we know that I is just like a variable, I want you to try part B right down here. So let's check part B. So part B is just like part A. We can really just drop the parentheses because this is just a positive. Distributing a positive won't change any of these terms. Once we have all these terms, we combine the like terms. We have two numbers with no variable, those -5, -3 gives us a -8. Two terms with an I. So this is 3i minus 1i. If you need to put that leading placeholder of 1 to help you see that, that's fine. So our final answer is -8 plus 2i. Now I want you to try part C. Now that we've had two practice problems, try part C on your own. Okay, let's check part C. We know that because we're adding these two terms, we can just really write it without parentheses. We don't need to worry about distributing a negative or anything like that because it's a plus sign. Now that we have all of our terms, we just combine the like ones. Now notice when we combine like terms, we have a +2 and a -2. Notice those cancel. We have a +3i and a -3i. Those cancel. Everything canceled out, so this just equals 0. So now let's look at some examples with just variables to kind of get the rules for the addition and subtraction of these complex numbers. So right here, using our knowledge from example A, we know that when we add two binomials together, we're really just combining the like terms. So see how A and C, they're the real numbers, the BI, DI, they're the imaginary. Those get grouped together. Real numbers get added, imaginary numbers get added. What about if we were subtracting? Well, remember, parentheses are important. We have to first distribute that negative sign. So then I just rewrote these terms. So the A plus BI did not change. The only thing that changed was the stuff inside the second set of parentheses, becoming a -C and a -DI. Now, just like we did in the previous problem, we just need to combine like terms. See how the A and the -C, those are the real numbers, and we would subtract them if we had numbers there. The BI and the DI, those are the imaginary, so we would subtract them if we had numbers there. So these two rules right here are just the rules that we're going to use to continue to add and subtract these complex numbers. So with these rules, let's try subtraction. So let's look at this first example. So in this first example, we have 12 minus 13i, and then minus the term negative 5 plus 4i. So before you try to combine anything, you first need to distribute this minus sign. So these terms are now 12 minus 13i. Those did not change. But this becomes negative times negative 5 is positive 5. Negative times a positive 4i is a negative 4i. Now that we have these terms, they can be combined. So the 12 plus the 5 gives us 17. Then the negative 13i minus 4i, that's a negative 17i. That's our final answer. We're done. So now let's do a second example together. We're going to try part B. So in part B, we do have some fractions, but don't let that freak you out. We have two complex numbers that are being added together. So notice, we don't need to distribute a negative sign. I mean, we can distribute a positive here, but that doesn't change anything. So really, we can just rewrite all of these terms, but without parentheses. Okay, so now we have all these terms written without parentheses, so then we can combine them. So notice, it's 1/2 plus 5/2. If you type that in your calculator, you will get a whole number. Or if you want to do the mental math, let's do that over here on the side. 1/2 plus 5/2. Notice you can't add or subtract fractions unless they have a like denominator. Notice they both have 2, so we're good to go. So we can just add those numerators. 1 plus 5 is 6 over 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So right here, those two terms gave us 3. So now let's look at the imaginary. So this is negative 1i. If it helps, put that 1 right there. Plus a 9i. So this is negative 1 plus 9. Negative 1 plus 9 is a positive 8. So we put plus 8i. That's our final. We're done. So now that you've seen those two examples, I want you to try part C on your own. Okay, so don't let the square roots freak you out. So in this problem, this is really just a simple addition problem. So let's first rewrite them without parentheses. So we have a square root of 2, which is a real number. We have this negative 7i, an imaginary number. Then plus 2, which is a real, plus I square root of 3. So we need to combine the real terms. So basically the things without the I. So that's square root of 2 plus 2. Now, we could type in a calculator, get a decimal. Let's not. Let's not write decimals. Let's just write the square root plus 2. Okay, over here, we have the I terms. So we have a negative 7 plus the square root of 3. Since they both have I, I'm going to put these two terms in parentheses and put the I right beside them. I could write this as negative 7i plus I square root of 3. But since they have that common term of I, why not just write it as the two terms with I already pulled out? And since we are adding these two together, we'll put a big plus sign here. So this looks a lot like that rule that we wrote just a second ago. So if I go back, down here at the bottom, the equation that we just got looks a lot like these rules. Okay, so don't think that everything will combine nice and perfectly. Sometimes you will have things with square roots and things not combined. So last one I want you to try is part D. So in part D, you have 3 terms. So what I want you to do is to distribute, write all the terms without parentheses, and then try to combine. So try that on your own. So when we distribute those signs, the positive and the negative, the plus and the minus,